Hello, hello. We are starting lesson 6.6 today on finding the whole when you are given a part and the percent. So make sure you are on page 380. You can have a calculator today. You might want that with you. I'm going to use mine for our lesson. So if you need to grab that, hit pause, then come back, and we'll start with example 1. So again, we're on page 380. Our essential question is, how can you find the whole in a percent problem? So if we look at example 1, find the whole in the percent problem. Bree scored 90% on her math test. Out of a total possible points on the test, her score was 135. We're trying to figure out how many points were possible on the test. So we're trying to find 90% of what number is 135. So again, we see that word of, just like our last couple of lessons, remembering that of means to multiply. That's going to help us when we set it up. So if we look, I'm going to kind of skip this first example and go here. If I want to set it up, 90% of a number is 135. I want my 90% times this number, we don't know what it is, so it's a variable, is or equals 135. I know I need my percent as a decimal, just like in our last lesson. So I'm changing my 90% to my 90 hundredths or 9/10, and I'm plugging that in. So now I have 90 hundredths times my unknown is 135. I'm setting it up and solving. So in order to get my variable by itself, I'm going to divide by 9/10 on both sides. When I take 135 divided by 9/10, I end up with 150. So now I know that 90% of 150 is our 135. We can also use that crisscross method if that's easier for you. I'm thinking that I want 90%, which would be 90 out of 100. I know 90% has to equal, sorry, I'm doing this upside down. 90% needs to equal my number here, or my number here, 135. I'm trying to find out what 100% was. So now I have my crisscross. 100 times 135 would be 13,500. And then I'm dividing that by my third number, so divided by 90. And again, we can use our calculators. I would type my 13,500 divided by 90, and I still end up with 150. So either of those methods would work. Let's do a try it. Bree took another math test and scored 152 points, which was 95% of the total possible points on the test. What was the total number of possible points? So here I have 152 is what percent of, 95% of what number is 152? Getting all my words mixed up again. All right, so I want my 95% changed to a decimal. So I'm going to remember, whoop, whoop, get my 95 hundredths. I don't know what I'm multiplying by. I don't know of what number it is. So I have 0.95 times my unknown. In order to get it by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by that 95 hundredths. Again, calculators, 152 divided by 95 hundredths. I end up with 160. So now I know that 95% of 160 is 152. Again, we can set it up our other way. If I start with my 95% out of 100, I know the 95% is my 152. I don't know what 100% is. Using my crisscross, I end up with 15,200, dividing by that third number, 95. I take that in my calculator, and look at that. I end up with the same answer, 160. So just showing both methods work, whichever one's easier for your brain. All right, let's take a short brain break to look at some of those memes that we've been going through. You guys had some really creative ones. I'm loving it. Okay, let's finish up example 2 here. Not finish, start example 2. Finding the whole when given the percent if the percent is greater than 100. The students in one classroom sold tickets to the talent show. They sold 200% of the amount of tickets that they sold last year. How many tickets did the students sell last year? So we're trying to find the number of which 200% is 40. So we'll skip over here to one of the methods that we've worked on, setting it up as a problem. So I know that I need 200% of a number is going to be equal to 40. So again, I need my 200% as a decimal. In this case, when I whoop whoop, I end up with a whole number, just 2. So now I have 2 times my number needs to equal 40. To get n by itself, I'm dividing both sides by 2. So now I end up with n equals 40. So I know that 200% of 20, did I say 40, is 20. 200% of 20 is 40. I could also set it up my 200%. I know that 200% is 40. I'm trying to find my unknown. I end up with my 40 times 100, which is 4,000. And then I'm going to divide that by 200. If I do that, I take my 4,000 divided by 200, and I still end up with 20. So again, either method works. Now I know that 200% of 20 would give us 40. Let's look at example 3 so we can finish up. Finding the whole when the percent is a decimal. So now I have 62.5% of what number is 30. So again, plugging in what we know, I know my 62.5% of, so times a number, I don't know the number, is or equals 30. In order to multiply, I need to change my percent to a decimal, so I'm going to whoop whoop, whooping it up to get 625 thousandths times my number is 300. Getting that unknown by itself by dividing both sides by that 625 thousandths. When I do that, I take my 30 divided by 625 thousandths, and I end up with 48. So now I know that 62.5% of 48 is 30. And then our other method, our crisscross, we could take our 62.5%, so it'll be out of 100, equals, I know my 62.5 needs to equal 30. I don't know my 100%. I take my 100 times 30 and I get 3,000. I take my 3,000 divided by my third number, my 62.5. If I type it in that way, 3,000 divided by 62.5, I get 48. So now I know the answer is, again, 48. All right, so 62.5% of 48 is 30. We got 2 try-its at the bottom here. See if we can do them. We have 300% of what number is 180. So I'm doing 300% of, so times a number, is 180, equals 180. If I want to get this, I need to change my percent to a decimal, so I'm going to do whoop whoop. Now I have 3n equals 180. To get it by itself, I'm dividing both sides, and I end up with n equals 18 divided by 3 is 6, and then put my 0 back on, n equals 60. I again could have set it up the other way, 300%. It equals, my 300 would be equal to 180. I don't know the bottom. I crisscross, I end up with 18,000 divided by 300. 18,000 divided by 300 we get 60. So either way, I get my same answer of 60. So now I know 300% of 60 is 180. Last one. Now I have one of those decimals again. I have 0.3% is of what number is 24. So I need to do my 0.3% of, so multiply a number, is 24. I need to change this to a decimal, so whoop whoop. Now I have 3,000 times my number, or of my number, has to be 24. To get that by itself, I'm dividing by my 3,000ths. If I do that, let's take our calculators, 24 divided by 0.003, we end up with 8,000. So 0.3% of 24 is 8,000. All right, that was a lot. So the important thing with this is those vocabulary words. I'll give you one more brain break with some of those memes, and then I will have your work posted at the end. Take your time, do your best, ask for help if you need it. I will be back tomorrow and can help you with anything you couldn't get done today.